Be right here.
Sounds
So I can help her. There's plenty of seats for everyone.
So welcome everybody. We're excited to have a little bit bigger turnout than we normally have at our regular monthly ELPCO Community Council meeting. My name is Jeff Larson. I am on the board. I've been involved with ELPCO for a time. I'm going to briefly introduce our board members here and some of our special guests, and we'll have an exciting meeting tonight. So my name is Jeff Larson. I'm the vice chair for the board. I've been involved since 2020, and I live in the East Emerson portion. And I'll just go through the front row here. Alan Crittenden, raise your hand. So he's our land use committee chair and board member at large. We have Janet Wade, who's our 9th and 9th business liaison, coordinating with efforts there and making sure that we correlate with them and things they want to see happen. Judy Short, who is she's at large, right?
She's our land use
advisor. We share her with the Sugar House Community Council and rely on her expertise and a lot of her experience over the years to advise us in many ways. We have Jeanette, and here she's running the Zoom meeting and keeping everything going for the people who aren't here in person. And we have David Jones on the second row back here, who is out. You're at large as well, so he's been vital in helping us keep everything up to date and provided a lot of the context for the questions that we have for our guest tonight. And then we have Christina Robb.
Marshall too.
Oh, Marshall's in the back.
And Michael.
Marshall Bell, and who is the East Liberty Park representative, and Michael, who is what's his board name? West Emerson. Perfect. And then Christina Robb, who is our chair, and she's going to introduce Tracy Aviary here for our host tonight, who we also appreciate.
Well, thanks for coming, everyone. It's good to see some new faces, and thanks to the mayor and everyone else for being here. I, first of all, want to thank the board for working so well together and for fulfilling these volunteer roles. I feel like it's exciting to see you all in the room tonight. But I really want to thank Tim Brown and the Tracy Aviary and our friend Gabe back here, who runs all of our ELPCO meetings, and they donate the space for our community council every month for, a good decade at least. So we have Tim here. Tim is the executive director of the Tracy Aviary. He is from Salt Lake City, and he's been at the Aviary for more than 21 years. Tim is committed to conservation, education, and community. And Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you all here. That's my short bio. Christina said that ELPCO has been here for 10 good years, 14 years in total, but there were some bad years during this stint. How many of you know Tracy Aviary? I hope every hand goes up, right? So you know the gig. We're your community aviary. So we encourage you to get memberships or visit often if you can't afford it. We've got free admission for teachers and SNAP benefit recipients and all sorts of stuff like that. So there's really no reason you shouldn't be coming to Tracy Aviary. Gabe is helping us do a lot of really fun events. I think kind of the funnest events in the city, really. But we've only got so much capacity, so don't tell everybody, but maybe your neighbors and stuff. And really, do you have any questions for me? Or
what's your favorite bird?
The one I'm looking at at the time. I mean, not.
That was great.
I miss Andy.
I miss Andy too.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
always said hi.
yeah. Weiner's a good substitute. He's one of the Southern Brown Hornbills. He says hi. But yeah, you can pat Weiner's or Andy's head there.
Yeah.
Any other questions or?
I don't know who they are. What do you mean when you use the name, but
Andy was an icon here, the Andean condor. He is in the corner. He lived here he's 64. He lived here for 63 years. Weiner is a Southern Ground Hornbill, which is out on the west side of our campus, east side of the park there by our Bird Feeder Cafe. He's in his 40s.
What sound does it make?
I can't.
Want to give us a little test. So tell us what's happening.
Well, I want to get invited back, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you. Good work.
All right. So the way our agenda is working tonight is we are going to go ahead and introduce Mayor Mendenhall and let her open up with whatever she wants to talk about. We went out to our neighbors and we sort of surveyed the community and put together a pretty lengthy list of what was important, which became our priorities and basically what we form our strategic plan around. But we want to make sure that people in the audience have a chance to ask their questions. So we'll kind of go back and forth between a community council question and then we'll take one from the audience if that's okay. And Jeff is going to go ahead and run the Q&A part. But for now, I'm just going to pass it right over to you, but everyone knows who you are. Yeah.
So are you saying you want me to just do like an intro and then you're gonna pepper me with questions?
Yeah,
I'm
we
happy.
want to give you as much time as you want to just like tell people what you'd like them to go first, and then
Well, while Tim is being politically correct, I will tell you the baby flamingos happen here, and they are my favorite birds. And are they gonna have babies this year? Yeah.
One down, down.
Well, it's a beautiful magical mystery, folks. And check out the baby flamingos if they happen.
If they have.
They're little gray pups that make very funny sounds that Tim will impersonate for us later. I'm in my home territory here. This is my community council. And I was here 14 years ago when we had our first community council meeting in the classroom building right there when we moved from Salt Lake Community College. Remember, was anybody here back then when
I think I was there.
Liberty Wells and ELPCO used to meet in a pretty dumpy room in community college? So thank you for upgrading. I will give you a quick update that I just returned from about 6 days in Milan for the Olympics. I went after the opening ceremony because the city hosted our first watch party for the games every day of the Olympics, and we're going to do it again every day of the Paralympics, and that kicks off a week from tomorrow. And we're going to have a big kind of event on the plaza there at Library Square on Saturday, March 7th. You should come out. And the farmers market's happening at that time in the old Leonardo building, so I hope you'll plan on joining us. And just it's free, fun, and there's food and adult beverages and all sorts of stuff. So that's it starts Friday, March 6th, but we'll be there March 7th. In Milan, I'll give you a quick recap from Aaron's perspective. We got to participate in an observer program. So once you're going to host, they have learning opportunities for all of those future host communities and OCOGs. So there were, over the course of several weeks, there were a lot of people from Utah there, and I was able to go to the media center, look at the square footage they need and the technical and power aspects that they are looking at. The security center, we were toured through that athletes village, which is also going to become student housing as ours did up at the University of Utah. It was actually quite small, was part of what we learned from it. And you know that the Milano Cortina games were the most spread out games in Olympic history. So there were only a few Olympic venues in Milano. The next closest was maybe Bormio, which with traffic was about a 3-hour drive. I didn't make that trip. So I was able to see a couple of USA men's hockey and USA women's hockey games, which they mocked up every game and ended up, as you know, getting gold with both of those teams. I got to see hockey because it started at either 8:15 or 9:20 at night. And by then the learning parts and meeting with the city people was done. So I was, my takeaways for Utah are, we're already throwing watch parties, but there was not a single place that I found in Milan where the public could just watch an event in public on a piazza or in a square with other members of the public. And I felt like that was a big opportunity missed. The other part was just the density that Salt Lake City has of our venues and of the size of our downtown. We know that you're gonna feel the games when you're here. And so we were looking for people who had Olympic gear on or had their nation's gear on as we went through Milan, and that was not mostly what we saw. It felt like Milan was having its normal life, and so people were there for the Olympics. The venues were great, and the volunteers were enthusiastic and kind and helpful. There were lots of them, so I think we're similar in that regard. Flying back more locally, I have a list of things, Christina, like public safety, affordable housing, immigration enforcement, school district collaboration. Do you want to just open it up for questions?
Let's do that. Let's first take a question from the group, and then Jeff has the similar questions that we provided.
And I'd love to have you state your view before you have your question.
Okay, great. Who wants to start us off? Stand up. Let's see.
I'm Jeff, where I live right over there on 9th East and 14 South. I'm gonna dig right in.
Please.
Not happy about 9th East. It's like being in the outback of Australia. And I did talk with a a lot, and I know it's the railroad, all the railroad ties and all of that. And I did talk to a very nice guy who kind of gave the script, but I feel very bad for him because I know he's got a lot of calls about 9th East. It's infuriating at this stage of the game. This has been a couple of years now, and I'm just not happy about it. I have people coming into town going, "What's wrong with your roads?"
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this: some people may love the traffic calming and all of that. I hate it as well as some. Can get just paved streets and then put up all the concrete all over the place. That's all I'm asking. That's about as rude as I get. But I will say the 9th East between 8th South and 21st South is horrendous. 17 South going east and west, 13 South going east and west, 8 South going east and west. They're all hideous because those are all my roads. So I don't know about the other roads, but anyway, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jeff. Can I respond?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. I don't think you're rude at all. Actually, the 9th South, or rather, the 9th East repaving happened in about 2012, 2013. And it was one of the things that got stuck in my craw and made me want to run for office. When you get in, you realize there's a lot more context than you knew before, but what irked me was that they realized the old streetcar rail lines were under there, but they hadn't realized that before they began the project. And they didn't have the funding to remove those old rail lines. So I live in the neighborhood too. We've been living with the bumpy, it's really wild. It's almost like a washboard, especially between 13th and 17th, and then again between 17th and 21st. So that's been there for about 15 years. And
For 28.
and I'm sorry, most of the time you've lived there. I will tell you that, and I see Tammy Hunsaker shifting her seat. Tammy's the director of the community and neighborhood, she's right there. And a lot of the teams that do street repair, although not all of them, have Tammy has purview over. So if you want to say something, just throw in there that when the recession happened, 2008-ish and really through 10. The city stopped doing the majority of roadway maintenance and repairs. And it's like a body, you know, we're an old body here, so when you're not taking care of it, it gets worse quickly. By 2020, really before that, about probably more like 2016, most of our roads were in poor to failing condition, around 63% of our roads. So, and that was actually uniform across the city. Some people like to say, well, my neighborhood was worse. It's not true. We were actually equitable about that, about bad roads. And so in long story short, we got the prison, thank you, state of Utah, and they said your gift for having a prison is we'll allow you to increase your sales tax by 0.5% if you go through the local option to do so. We asked Salt Lakers, I was up the council, and do you want it? And a lot of Salt Lakers said, yeah, we do, we fix our roads. Get us more police officers, get us better buses, or bus service, and get us more affordable housing. And so we did the increase, and we bonded as well for $87 million. We doubled our maintenance crews, and we put $87 million into the worst roads in the system. It didn't do all of them, but it did the worst ones at the top. And then we started maintaining the ones that were salvageable to make them last longer. We finally turned the corner where now a majority of our roads are in fair or good condition or are new. But it is a slow boat, man. And because that road is not that old, even though it's not smooth at all, I feel you on that. I just want you to know that since 2018, really 19, when the money got into our hands, we have been repairing roads more than we were before. And he may have sent you to the map. There's a singular map that identifies every road in the entire city, and it ranks it. And I will tell you, and my neighbors will tell you, I live on one of the worst streets in the city. It's on the long list of streets that will certainly be repaired. My neighbors are like, what good are you? You are a worthless neighbor to us. So I feel the pain with you. And the honest part is there's more money going toward it than we had previously, but it's a slow arc toward justice for you. Sorry, Jeff. Tammy, you want to add anything?
In terms of traffic calming, I hear you. There's some mixed opinions about traffic calming. What the mayor was speaking of, there was an $87 million streets bond that was passed in 2018, 2019. We have just finished spending out that bond, and we have done a lot of major street projects, Sugar House being one of them. And we focused on large corridors and really extensive projects and traffic calming and bike lanes and multimodal infrastructure, as you've seen coming up around town. But now that that bond has been spent and we're looking at new CIP funding that comes online each year, our focus is shifting to those neighborhood streets and repairing the pavement in neighborhood local streets. So you should see more street repairs happening, street resurfacing. The pavement rating index, it's like this weird fan that drives around and measures the quality of pavement. We just actually had that done throughout the city in the fall, and that report should be coming out soon. So the worst streets are ranked highest in priority, and we're shifting from focusing on major street reconstruction projects on big arterial corridors to local streets.
Do you know if there's a time frame to do it on the?
We could get back to, it is on the map, it doesn't necessarily have a date on it, but we could get back to Christina and get it back to the community council.
And yeah, with those new ratings coming out, we can, streets will be prioritized based on the new ratings. So we'll look at that.
The good part that I think we should feel good about as Salt Lakers is there's nothing political about which streets get done. It's all based on the road quality and the funding that comes in. So it used to be that council members could fight for more money for their districts. We don't do that anymore. Okay, who's next?
John.
But as you mentioned, we have, you got the questions, so did she get these questions beforehand? Okay, yeah, so you know some of the questions that we're gonna kind of cover. And I think as long as we're talking about roads and traffic calming, hopefully you read that question. but traffic calming was mentioned. So I know that as people have varying opinions on it and love or not love for it. And a lot of the streets in ELPCO, particularly 11th East, 8th East, McClellan Trail, have some traffic calming elements. And then obviously other streets like 21st have those too. I'd be curious to hear, what your thoughts are about the traffic calming specifically, and if the city has any, has done any studies to show the effects of the traffic calming, whether it's slowing traffic, increasing safety, and if any of those studies have already been done.
Yeah, great questions. There's kind of a lot in there, so if I miss something, just remind me. I'll start with the latter. SB 195 was a transportation bill that the legislature passed last year. And it was motivated by some folks who really don't like some of the traffic calming installations, particularly what we call the neck down on South Temple, where we put in a bike lane east of 7th East and took it down to one lane heading up towards Virginia, if you can picture that. And so this humongous piece of legislation required UDOT to spend about $1 million, and they had millions and millions of data points that they gathered to evaluate what the impacts were from some of these existing installations and to make recommendations about which streets should not have any future installations happen on them. And this bill was a lot of work for both the city and UDOT. UDOT presented their findings to an interim committee in October, and then we responded, and we're still sort of in a response process that they are requiring of us. But in a nutshell, what it came down to was they have tested based on, if you don't know it, we're being tracked through our cell phones. Whether it's the chamber or state with DOT, they know where we're moving and how long it takes to get places. And so using that data, the state has been able to evaluate pre-installation, pre-traffic calming times to travel, for example, from the University of Utah to downtown or Sugar House to 9th and 9th, whatever. And then what it looked like after these installations. And they found that for the majority of these roadways, and the very specific data is in the report, there was not an impact on travel times. Not an impact. Now, for us who wanted to slow people down, we could say, shoot, we really wanted to slow some of the cars down. But that wasn't the majority of time. Tammy?
Well, I was just gonna add, one of the most significant, corridors with traffic calming that experienced a decrease in traffic speed. It was from 7th East up to Virginia at peak hour. It increased the travel time by between 30 seconds and a minute to go from 7th East to Virginia.
And that
So
was the biggest thing.
at peak, at like traffic hour.
30 seconds to a minute. Not a big increase.
And
yet that was the biggest.
One interesting thing that UDOT did is they measured it from the COVID level, not the traffic calming installation, because what kind of happened is during COVID, not a lot of people were on the streets. So a lot of us have a little bit of amnesia going back like to 2018, 2019. There was quite a bit of traffic, but then for several years we experienced less traffic because people were telecommuting and whatnot. So part of the experience right now is not necessarily impacting traffic calming, although there is some. It's just people getting back to normal life after COVID.
Another interesting part is that on our CIP, our capital improvement program, which community councils apply for all sorts of things. This community council has, Sugar House does, Liberty Wells does. The majority of those requests in a typical year are for traffic calming installations. It's the number one thing that neighbors ask us to spend money on in their communities, traffic calming. And that's true all across the city. So this is the number one request for our dollars in terms of going into the roadways that we get through our processes. So why we have these installations is because you asked for them. How we decided, I remember when these was being contemplated, and they held some straw bales out there. I don't know if you guys were there. I lived on Harrison in the 70s block at that time. We designed these things together. So whether or not we still like them, we're still here to listen to you. And you might not like them, or you might not like the 30-second impact on your commute. We're not going anywhere. We want to hear what your impacts are. We're also measuring what those impacts are because we've been required to. And then the last thing I'll say about this is the UDOT report that is now being solidified in legislation that Senator Harper and Representative Christopherson are running. They're going to lock that in or require us basically to enter into a contract with UDOT that will do what UDOT said. Made 3 levels of streets in the study area. And by the way, they didn't ask about the west side, and you can have your own speculation about why they have no interest. But it's I-15 up to Foothill, 6 north down to 21st south. There are 3 categories of roadways now according to UDOT, Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 1 are those major corridors that probably 90% of us would name the same streets. 7th East is a UDOT road, State Street. There's 3rd West is a corridor. They've identified Tier 1 streets that shall never have more traffic calming installed on them, unless maybe UDOT decided to do it themselves. There are Tier 2. Those are not the key arterials, but they're more major roadways, the neighborhood streets. And there's Tier 2 ones. If we want to change traffic access, then we have to go through a very defined process with the community and then with UDOT. And then UDOT has to give their stamp of approval for us to make those changes. Tier 3 are basically our neighborhood streets. We can do what we decide together to do through our normal process. We don't need UDOT approval on Tier 3. So that's it. It's different going forward. That map and that UDOT study you can find when we can help you find it if you want to look it up. Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, I would ask a community question. Yeah, and for full disclosure, you know, I have, I don't love every traffic calming implement, but I do have some in front of my house and it has made a big difference, and the majority of them I am a fan of, but obviously we have a lot of opinions and hear a lot of questions about that. So anyway, I'll open it back up for
The traffic calming that currently exists remain with the new station.
Yeah, what do you suggest? Yeah. Or repeat it in case there's anybody online. Will the existing traffic calming remain given the legislation? The legislation that's up right now has not been passed and it's still actually being iterated, so it's possible. And there is a portion of that legislation that talks about mitigating the impacts from the current installation. It doesn't require a removal, but it requires us to evaluate, work with the neighboring property owners on very specific corridors, which are mostly downtown. It's 3rd West, 4th South, and 2nd South of them. Yeah, that's all. So none of the neighborhood ones require that. But like I was saying to you, if the community doesn't like what they asked us to do and we installed, then talk to us about it. Because we're not going anywhere. We want everybody to like what their investments are doing for tourism.
You know, it's interesting.
Hang on, you gotta use the mic.
I think I can throw my voice better than your mic.
There's one line.
Oh, all right, here. It's interesting, having grown up in this community for 99% of my life. 13th East was a 2-lane road, 2 lanes each direction. And then they decided that they would calm it down by making it a 1-lane. And all that did is create more frustration. And now you block yourself from 21st South to 13th South to get along on 1300 East. And that's not calming anything. So everybody's trying to take these streets, side streets, to get down to where they can have some traffic. Everything we do in society, okay, is we compare it to somewhere else, but we never compare it to similar. It's another state, another area, another group of people that we're comparing it to. We're not comparing it to likes. And I understand how this goes. I worked with UTA when they did their bus routes, and we had these little toy things which we did, and we had to do this and to see which is the best routes and how to do it so we could understand it. And that was quite educational. But we were doing it in our own time frame in our own area, and that helped because we could understand, because we lived those areas and understood that. I'm afraid that we're calming things down, but we're creating a bigger problem.
By displacing, pardon, by displacing the
Yes.
traffic.
I mean, I'm sorry, I like 12th East, which now they call it McClellan. And then they have barricades, because if you couldn't get through on 13th South, 13th East, you could cut down on Emerson or Roosevelt and get over to Kensington to get home. But oh no, I have to wait till I get to Kensington before, and so I'm there waiting and waiting and waiting. So we've accomplished some things, and I know we can't win everything. That's no problem. Well, it is a problem, but I have to accept that. But, you know, we had people that came and met with us on Kensington and McClellan, Trail. And we said, this is what we want. Well, we got these big bulb outs instead. We just wanted a speed bump to slow people down. We didn't want these big bulbs, but that's what we got because we were told that would solve the problem. So everybody speeds up to that point so they can get through first, because there's another car coming and they're trying to speed up. And so which one stops first? Oh, and now we have a bar on the corner. And so we've got everybody parking at the bar and they're trying to get through too. So, I mean, it was a no-win situation in this respect. And I know I threw out several different things and I still need to talk to you.
You didn't ask me any questions, but you made a lot of great statements, and I hear you. Jeff was raising his hand passionately.
I have to refute some of that. I live on 430 East. Before any traffic calming, almost any traffic calming measures went in, we have been asking for 19 years for the city to do something about the cars that cut through our neighborhood to avoid State Street centers. 19 years, way before any of the speed bumps, bulb outs, chicanes, all the stuff went in. It's been an ongoing issue. So it's not, it's come about because traffic calming has been put on other streets. And it does shift, it does displace.
And there's more traffic.
There are more people.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Andrew Casanarez. I can see a long-time local and president. My family's been in the area for a long time too, in the Wells. I had a question that was unrelated to traffic calming, but I want to lay here as well that I thank you, Jeff, for giving a little bit. I and so many other people here, just because they're not sitting here in this meeting, support traffic calming and so many other things that you and the city have done to make the city a more livable, walkable place. I think that people get so concerned hung up on 30 seconds, longer along the road. Oh, I have to wait 3 extra cars in traffic light. No one is talking about the benefits that these bulb outs bring. If being in traffic for 5 seconds longer saves a single life in our city, it is worth it. Think about your neighbors, your family, your friends, your children. And I'm here living on 9th and 9th. I see people on 900 South. I see people already learning.
That question.
That's better.
But she didn't say that.
Well, the traffic calming is great. We all love it. My question is related to the business district specifically. We haven't had trash cans there for quite some time, and I and other residents have been pushing for this for a while. Oh, there we go. Okay.
How many told you?
Okay, can I be very different if a final question happen? If this might.
One more.
Yeah, well, you and the city have a strategy at this point for further studying and looking at the Rio Grande plan. You spoke, about how when you went to Milan, you saw how the city was vibrant, and you talked about how here in Salt Lake, we have a very venue dense city. People are publicly out and about in the city, walking in public squares, getting to and from via transit. And the Rio Grande plan would help increase transit efficiency and utilization of so much of our city's dead space. Do we have a strategy for that?
Short answer, no. No, we don't. It is a tremendous plan that you and others have been really good at sharing with the community and other cities and elected officials, and really appreciate that. And you know, Andrew knows, but we did get a federal grant inviting administration to study west-east connections all across the city, the breadth of the city. And that was a key part of it. In a nutshell, very expensive. UTA is not interested in participating as far as I've heard. This is their land by and large, and so we need some participation there. I do think it would be a great benefit. I, as you know, talked a lot about the Green Loop, which is really 4 different park stretches in our 132-foot wide right-of-ways that Brigham Young built for us, that converts some of those right-of-ways to prettier, greener, more walkable, pedestrian-friendly space. And I think the Rio Grande plan would be a great complement to that connectivity and vitality and open land use. But the short answer is no, we don't have a strategy yet. I said yes. That was pretty good for her.
I hear you.
Okay, question. Jen?
I just
Yeah.
asked you a question, Buddy Mayor.
Yes.
We did have these community questions, but we were thinking that we would just open it up to the public and maybe you could email us some of the answers.
Sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a lot of good questions in the crowd, so.
Or if it waits, we can come back to this.
Okay.
So,
And I need Christine, you to keep us on time, because
Yeah.
I am not.
Yep, I'm watching it. Mm-hmm.
do we have another question right now? Somebody have something to wait?
When all is good to do, we've talked about traffic calming, and there are some issues that have inhibited some of the, like for instance, our church on the 80s and Roosevelt, that the bulbing out things have taken away the parking and that I appreciate the effort to calm the parking, but at the same, the travel, but we want to find out, there are some of them that are a great hindrance to us in the parking, because when they take over the parking for that, then they have to move them over in front of other people who may not appreciate the fact that we got to park somewhere. I just find, is there a process for a particular area that we would like to have it addressed? Is it possible that can be changed?
Thanks, Wayne. There is a requirement in the UDOT, which will become state law situation, that if we are going to remove parking in the study area, right, Tammy, so it's anywhere from I-15 east to Foothill, it's all through neighborhood and more. If we're gonna remove parking, then we have to go through a whole process to do so. So going forward, you'll see the city work somewhat differently to remove it, but you're talking about existing bulb outs that have removed what was parking before. I don't have a quick answer for you on getting those things removed, especially since, as you've heard from me and from some of your neighbors, a lot of your neighbors want these things installed. And we have seen some benefits to safety on our streets, since we've made these installations. So don't have a good answer for you on that one. The other part, just honestly, I think there's a change in mindset that is happening, that it has to happen in cities like ours that are growing, that have single family homes in places that have more density happening than they had when those houses were built or even 50 years ago. that, you know, my mom thinks if somebody parks in front of our house, they damn well better be coming to my house. She's like, tell them to move. Tell them to move. I'm like, I don't own that parking spot, Mom. And I did it. And then when for someone like my mom who has a hard time walking, having really the shortest possible distance between your car and your house, if you don't have a driveway in the garage or whatever, it's a big deal. But there is a change in mindset about what is realistic for us to walk to the place where we used to be able to park right out front, and that we're sharing so much more of those curbsides than we were before. Hard transition.
And I'll just throw on a sidecar plug for, to come to ELPCO meetings, if you want your input, considered and, have those opportunities to talk to the mayor, to talk to our city council and other people when those, whether it's talking about installing some of those things or there's discussion about possible changes. So
When it happens.
be involved.
Every Thursday of the month, right? So, you know, I haven't seen you at any of the ELPCO meetings, but we would love to have first, every third Thursday.
For the
Or
fourth,
every
fourth
fourth
Thursday
Thursday of the month, yeah,
of
so,
the month.
Liberty Wells is the third Thursday.
Yes. Go to them too. Who else has a question? Now I'm gonna go with paper.
Are you gonna solve all of our problems?
Yeah, waiting already, waiting to do it, no. I'm sitting comfortable in the middle of a term.
Well, since we're kind of talking about budgets and things, we'll go to that question. Obviously, the way this question was posed and written, obviously a lot of residents don't understand the whole budget and they get hyper focused on some things and they'll fully understand all the implications. But it's always, they always feel like it's something was more than before, less than before. What creative ideas exist to ensure the city is fiscally responsible with their budget, including spending less than what is budgeted, and what is being done to make sure Salt Lake City prioritizes upkeep and maintenance of current public assets?
Yeah. My administration took a different approach to budgeting than the city has done before, which is similar to zero-based budgeting, and everyone knows what that's like. So instead of starting with the budget you had last year and coming to ask the mayor for all the additional things that you need, which is kind of the way the city's functioned for a really long time. We said, we're gonna back all the way out, and we want you to show us what all of your existing costs are, and we want you to have to kind of justify everything that you have. And we're going to evaluate what your contractual commitments are, what your face-to-face increases are for your employees. But we want to look at everything that is in your existing budget before you can ask us for a single new item. And that in a 16 department city with 4,000 employees has been a major piece of work. We have a really good CFO, Mary Beth Thompson, and we have finance folks working in every department throughout the city who have been helping department directors to approach their budget from this bottom up instead of where did we leave off last year and go up from there. The reality also is that Salt Lake City is the biggest it's ever been, with 220,000 residents or so. We've doubled our downtown population since 2020, and that will not triple, they think, by 2030. Sugar House also has grown quite a lot in its density, and we have many more households than we had before. A lot of that new growth is single bedroom apartments or studio apartments, so there's a lot of more adult individuals than just a family with more and more kids. So that creates different uses throughout the city. I'll also tell you, we've permitted over $3 billion in value. So think of all those permits where you're expanding your house or building an ADU or you're opening a new business and you have to do tenant improvements or you're building a brand new high rise. There's a value associated with all of these investments. We've broken records since I've been in this office, and this last year in 2025, we crested $3 billion. So the demand for services and the demand of functions in our city is higher than it's ever been. So cutting down services right now will mean a loss of what you get. And I don't want to enumerate all the things, but you can imagine, from police and fire and 911 to garbage pickup to mowing the lawns to water treatment and sewage and repairing pipes. And these are things that you rely on, maybe you don't think about every day. But those are the services that we do. And the vast majority of our budget is to pay for our employees. That's the vast majority. So, that's how we're approaching budgeting. And to tune in, whoever asked that question, the first Tuesday in May, the mayor gets to stand before Eric Carlson and the other 6 council members to present my budget to them in a nutshell. And then it's all online. You can pick it apart, and then you get 6 weeks to come and let your amazing council person know what you think about it, what you don't like, and what you think we should do differently. And ultimately, the council approves that budget or changes it however they like.
All right, we're gonna go with one more question, and then unless there's anything urgent, we're gonna go on to, or you want to share anything else, obviously, do the rest of our meeting and have everyone else, share. So, the paraphrase portion of President Kennedy's inaugural address asks not what your city can do for you, but what you can do for your city. So given your years of experience with local governments, can you provide some concrete examples or actions residents in East Liberty Park have done and can continue to do to improve our neighborhoods and our city livability, all of the above?
Oh, I just get to compliment you guys what you've done. Well, let's start right here in the Liberty Park. I have to think about, sorry, ELPCO, but Liberty Wells Community Council, who is one of the most industrious community councils in the city. Sugar House too. But the British Field Day that happens here is a fundraiser every single year for Liberty Wells Community Council. And that budget they use to put some matching funds in often when they ask the city to do something like put those blade signs that say, "Welcome to Liberty Wells," those beautiful metal green blade signs that are all over the neighborhood here. That was blood, sweat, and tears from people like Jeff Baird and Liberty Wells and ELPCO applying for curb cuts. So when you're pushing a stroller, you're on a bike, you're in a wheelchair, you get to the corner and you have to drop off that curb because it was built before the ADA happened. We come in and because of applications from this community council and Liberty Wells, we've made the city smoother, literally. You've also helped us prioritize some of the other infrastructure improvements around here. I think about 9th and 9th Street Fair, and it's one of the iconic festivals in Salt Lake City. It's part of the culture of our city. I remember coming to it when I was too young to run for office, and I love that it persists and continues. Like these parts, the small businesses that have been in 9th and 9th, been down at Central 9th, and are now stretching to this interstitial fabric between your community councils. That's like the greatest identity of the city is the small businesses that we are. You know, more than 95% of our business licenses are small businesses still. It's so many of you public secretly in the back there. That's who we are. We're not strip malls and big box stores. We're each other's businesses and each other's nonprofits. And this community that has been supporting and advocating and building each other up since before we put the purple infrastructure at 9th and 9th. You know, we just repainted it, by the way, a couple of years ago. Oh, what I wanted to say about Andrew, just really quick about garbage cans. Y'all are paying for that though. So we did a one-time big spend when Jill Luck was the councilwoman to put those nifty ornamental street lights on at 9th and 9th and the art on the rounded corners. But there was never an SAA, a special assessment area where businesses paying for us to take care of those things. So what, I don't know, 15 years went by and the benches we put in were peeling and cutting the back of your leg a little bit, and cars had crashed into lights. The city asked the businesses again, now are you ready to help pay for some of this stuff? And ultimately, when I was on the city council, I got a bunch of money, so you didn't have to, but it wasn't a solution, folks. We need to find a way to pay for people to empty the garbage cans and a fund so that when a truck backs into a light post, we can actually not take it away from repairing the streets, but pay for it from a fund that we all contribute to. That's kind of the ninth police and SAA.
It's a great way to yeah.
Well, thanks. Thank you, Erin.
Thanks.
And Paul, for being here, and thank you, everybody, for participating and your questions, your input beforehand and tonight. So, Christina, you want the mic? You can go
I
ahead.
just want to let people know what we're going to do for the rest of the time. Thank you, Mayor
Did I
Mendenhall.
say go?
What we were under the impression that you wanted to leave by 8.
I got my daughter to bed. I did that.
Okay, we are leaving that up to you. We're so happy that you came and gave, our community the opportunity to reacquaint with you and ask the questions. Just for the folks in attendance and online, we do have a number of other questions that, again, speak to the priorities of the community. And we gave them to the mayor before the meeting. Obviously, we didn't have a chance to cover all of those, but we will go ahead and put that in our newsletter, some of the answers to some of those questions that the community wrote to us about moving forward. So going on with the meeting, we have some other invited special guests.
She is going to leave. She wants to say goodbye.
I didn't mean to, and I'm telling you, you need a few more money. We can talk about that another time. I just wanted to thank you for coming to the community council meeting. Like, honestly, I know you could be at home with your shoes off and your soft pants on right now, sitting on your couch, but it means so much, not just to me and all the city people who are here. Oh, the firefighters are here. I mean, the cops are here too, but but it means a lot to what happens in your neighborhood. So the developments and the investments we're gonna make, we check here with you. We check in with you here. So if you're online and you're thinking about showing up, or if you were wondering if you should have come tonight, I'm so glad you did. Please keep coming to community council. And I want to say that you have a fantastic city council person. Erica Carlson is the best of the best. And I have high hopes for her to continue through the city for decades to come. So busted, too busted. Decades more than our mayor over to. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mayor. Can we give our mayor a announcements?
We're actually gonna, so you're kind of that head because there's gonna be a lot of questions. We're gonna start with our brand new, we used to call them our community intelligence officers, but now they're our liaisons with the Salt Lake Police Department. We'd like to introduce you to Gordon Swift. He's here tonight. He's gonna tell us about what his job entails, because it's really important for our community to sort of understand the different positions that this administration offers our community to interact with them every single day. Now, I'm just gonna give a good plug for Dr. Swift here, is that traditionally our liaison officers have been sort of new on the job. They're younger, and this position is one of their entry level. So this time around, we're really excited to get a officer with the experience of this detective here, who has done many different jobs around the department. So when he's at our community council meeting, answering all of the questions, he comes from a really profound and deep knowledge base that, frankly, I haven't seen at community council level in my 20-year career. So welcome. Tell us everything you want us to know about.
Okay, yeah, my name is Gordon Swift. I've been with the department coming up on about 18 years here. And so if you guys haven't interacted with me or the other liaison before, basically what we are is like an interface. You guys in the community councils, the business groups, things like that. We can help, direct resources, we do some educational stuff. also like help you guys, you know, realize that there's resources dedicated to certain problems, you know, how do you get those things there? So like an example would be sometimes I get issues brought up that are very specific police issues about something. And then when we delve into it, we find out that nobody's actually called it in. It's something they're seeing for a month, 2 months in. Something that I've been trying to get out to these community councils is that the departments, it's 2026, and these departments are extremely data driven. So what we do is we generate heat maps based off the calls, the things we have that are incoming. And so when we have an issue that people, maybe it's an ongoing issue, but they haven't felt they need to pick up the phone and call on it, we run, say, what's called a heat map. If that area you've seen has 0 calls on the last 4 weeks, in our eyes, to the data, we're like, looks good, you know, we're focusing on something else. So that's again also part of my role too. Maybe if there's something no one's been calling on but you're seeing, you can contact me with that. I can help direct resources, you know, get investigations going, things like that. Sometimes part of it, sometimes the enforcement actions we're taking aren't super visible to you guys. So like a recent example is Erica's office recently reached out about one of the smoke shops site that's got a lot of complaints about underage tobacco sales. And so, and I don't know if you've gotten, Julie, I sent the response to, I don't know if maybe she forwarded that.
Yes.
So one of these examples is because again, it's not something that's visible day to day. So one of the ways we generate interest from the police side on that thing is if you call in and have a report written on, say, underage tobacco, that goes into a queue, then goes to our what's called special investigation. They handle drug issues, tobacco, vice type issues. And so that puts it on their, and we have had a number of those come in. So some of the things that have been done that maybe the community hasn't seen about this shop is there was a search warrant served on in September that resulted in 5 felony charges. There was just a search warrant executed there again on February 19th that located a bunch of illicit substances. So that's another ongoing case. And so sometimes it just helps to know those things are going on. We don't always, because those are kind of low profile investigations. They're not always, you know, a known thing in the community. So it looks like, hey, nothing's being done. I just keep seeing this shop operating. But it helps to know that like, yes, no, your complaints are going to this unit. There's, you know, people being arrested. It's being addressed. It's not going. And so sometimes, yeah, that's, I'm a good contact for that stuff to either tell you, hey, this is being handled, or it's, no, this isn't on our radar at all. Because I know those guys, I know the different investigative units, I've worked for them, I can get the ball rolling on these kinds of issues, things like that. I mean, and also, I don't questions, anything in particular lately you guys have been wanting to ask the police department? You had a deputy chief here, but he left, so you missed that, not to ask me.
I also been with the department for 18 years at the police chapter.
Yeah, I recognize you.
Very grateful to see you here, but I'm just curious about how we might know, because I know, like, I'm going to ride on later on tonight, but there are things that are happening in our area that there's an increase and decrease. Is this where we learn of that, or is there another way that we can learn of what is happening in our area and what we?
I can put a link out for her to put out to the community group. They do post a lot of the area statistics you can look at and things like that, crime reports and all that. I would say specifically for this area lately, it's actually been pretty good as I've seen it in a while. Like, so East Liberty area, when I look at the last 4 weeks, I see a handful of property crimes and not a ton else outside of that. There was one sex assault that came in the area of the park, but that looks like that was between like known parties. It wasn't something that was like a random target, a random attack in the community or anything like that. And by and large, what you guys are seeing up here lately is some property crimes, probably related to some of the transient issues and some of the drug user issues that, you know, historically have ebbed and flowed around here.
But I think that if we understand a lot of what's going on, we can be more helpful to you. Because I know I make sure every ride along, I take them to my home, make sure they know where I'm at. And I want to be aware of them, and I want them to be aware of me, and I want to make sure I'm aware what's going on, so.
Well, so like I said before, things you're seeing, yeah, report them to us, call into dispatch, have a report written, or, because again, we're very data driven down there. So say if you have a problem house on your street and, you know, 4 different people call in to be, say like, hey, there's a lot of short state traffic, we think they're dealing drugs from there. That's how that gets on our radar. That's how we know something's going on. If everyone on that street sees it, it's like, man, what's going on in that house? But no one ever picks up the phone. Again, when we run the data, your street looks squeaky clean and we don't know about that. And this goes on every neighborhood. So one of the recent ones we've worked on, and it looks like we're gonna have to work on again, there's literally a house on the Mayor's Street. There's a problem this fashion. And she mentioned it to me just now before this thing, hey, it looks like that house that I'm familiar with is picking up again. So again, that's a thing we're gonna have to target. But again, we know about that when people tell us. So that's the biggest way you can get resources directed into your neighborhood, is tell us, pick up the phone and have, you know, the patrol guys come out, write a quick report on it, because those things all get coded, they all go into the data, they show up on our hotspots and all that kind of thing, and that's primarily how we're directing resources. Now, you can also contact me directly, and I can push it that way, but those hotspots are nice because those are in the command staff meetings. So guys at the highest levels are seeing that map, seeing where resources need to go. So definitely, always pipe up, always make your voice heard if you have an issue that needs addressing with us.
I'm just thinking that maybe we need that, because there's 2 numbers. There's either 911 or
799-3000.
I know that, but maybe ELPCO can help promote that too.
So
And
I
so that
would
we
go
can-
ahead and plug in here for a second, because like, ELPCO again, we meet almost every month of the year. So, one of the things that we do is we work really hard on helping the Salt Lake Police Department improve their data and how that data goes out to the public.
Yeah.
So just in our own meetings alone, of course, our detectives are there at every meeting to talk about what they're seeing as hotspots, but also to gather community information. People email us all the time and let us know what's happening in their community, and we turn it over to them. But more importantly, the statistics, like Detective Soch is talking about, we keep an eye on those to make sure that things aren't being missed. You know, so for example, if we have a hotspot and people are telling us they're calling in all the time, but we're not seeing those hits on what we're calling the crime map, then we talk to the police department and we try to understand why those aren't being put on that map. So again, we invite you to,
I'm just saying this because before I got involved in ELPCO, okay, and the community and stuff, I found that I couldn't find a number for the police department.
Really?
I couldn't call except 911. I didn't want to call 911. It took me a long time to do that. And all I wanted to know is, what time is curfew? What time should I expect my neighbor to be quiet? But I must admit, I didn't tell him where. I said, I'm not complaining. I said, you know, you have to party. That's no problem. He was turning 21 and they were having a party. But, you know, it was interesting. After 11 o'clock, these guys showed up. Oh, we were just driving by and we heard, I heard the conversation because I could hear it through the window. And I appreciated the fact that they did that, but I wasn't reporting it because you have to let steam go and happen and stuff that way. But, you know, I appreciate it, but I don't think a lot of people know how to get a hold of the police except 911.
No, you're right, you're probably right, that is a big barrier, I have had that come up before.
So,
Like, hey,
if, you know,
something, they're like, I don't wanna call 911. So yeah, 801-799-3000 is a non-emergency that still goes into that dispatch. And again, if it's just something you're like, hey, I'm not sure if this is like an imminent thing, no one's getting hurt or something else, but hey, this is something we should know about. That's a great number to use, and maybe we can push that out in the newsletter, something like that. And that 799-3000 is a great number for that. And I think they fixed the issues with the app now. There's also the My SLC app where things can be reported. I mean, on a variety of stuff throughout the city. I know initially it didn't sound like we were getting those to the PD. I think that's been fixed now. And so that's,
That's something that we want to be careful about. So you do not want to report any crime through My Salt Lake app, because then that does not go to the police department. It's not set up. So, you know, you do have to
that has
call.
not been resolved here.
Yeah, so,
That
and
was a problem.
it's definitely not something I think that's even on board for going to be happening. They want people to be able to call in, because then even if you call in the non-emergency number, that is still gonna go through dispatch. And, you know, a professional is gonna essentially decide at what level to send reinforcements, right? So the app also has a lag. So you don't want to report anything that needs immediate attention through the app. You have a question?
With this phone number, not knowing the number. With people not knowing the number, what's it called? Site 911. Can we make another local number for Salt Lake? Like 311? You got 411 for information, maybe, or is that dead?
That's probably a decision that's way above my pay grade.
There could be another number.
Send an email, like.
I know some jurisdictions have done that, you know, in other cities and stuff. I haven't seen that done here.
That's easy for kids to know.
Yeah.
If they see something and need help. Just an idea.
In other words, like a see something, say something, call this number.
Yeah, just a 3-digit. Instead of 911, 811, or 311. Something that's simple for everyone, and if you got it out in the community, I think maybe more people would use it.
Take it down.
That would probably likely have to happen at the state level, because that routing would have to change by jurisdiction, so say.
Right,
because
but
as it
we
is
can
now-
pass it on to you, and you can pass it
Yeah,
on.
no, definitely,
Well, just to be clear, Josh is in the back of the room, Ken's here to take all these questions, like, so they're taking the
So
notes.
just want to say on that. Just when you've gotten that suggestion, we're on the 311 number. Other cities have it, like Denver. We've looked at that. I know, and I think with the city growing, there's probably going to be a need for that kind of thing. So it is something that's on the city's radar. Developing, you know, more ways to get access to the city. So one step of that was made with the MySLC app, making that more integrated with all the city departments. Report things. So that's one big step. Probably the next thing is having some sort of centralized line of some sort to get some assistance. But that might be some time down the road. But you know, we definitely do hear that as a suggestion.
Okay, sorry, and I can speak loud enough. I just Googled it and it popped right up. What is the non-emergency number for Salt Lake City Police? And in big bold blue, it pops up, so it's.
We'll definitely make sure, it's on all of our agendas, that it's in all of, every single one of our letters, that number is in there, so but we will definitely have your request highlight that going forward. We're gonna let this gentleman ask the question.
This is a little specific. It's a time of year, and I consider it a crime, but I don't think that it is. What do you do with the massive bike thing that happens down 19th every damn Thursday at 10 o'clock, all over my lawn, breaking my sprinklers? Is that crime? I think
Most of it is so far, the city has kind of tolerated it.
I know.
The cops,
I enjoy the spirit, but I hate them because they're on my sidewalk.
yes, and the problem is too, is you get, it's like anything else, it's with the large groups, you get a handful of guys in that group rooting for everyone. So
Usually.
and so that's something that if you make that known to the city, your city council person and things, we can get more pressure to put, the police are happy to crack down on it. We're not huge fans of it because it creates a lot of problems for us. A lot of that decision is coming from the top down as to how much pressure are we gonna apply on this, how much enforcement, you know, how much of it are we gonna tolerate, like.
I actually love it. I think it's fun, but you're right. It's like 14-year-olds on a speed bike on the sidewalk, literally on my lawn.
I almost hit one in an undercover car months ago. I almost hit one in an undercover car months ago, because I'm also on the violent crime team. I'm going down 9th West, and here comes this bonehead like going against traffic right at me in the dark, and I didn't see him till the last second. I almost ran him over.
I'm not
Just like,
But it's, support for that because I get.
I'll tell you about it. So ELPCO, we get a lot of complaints about this. And again, there's several levels of government. We're non-governmental, obviously, but, like squeaky wheel is definitely how it works. And, I don't know if you know this, but there was a big crime sort of intervention that happened in the 999 last year to sort of, discriminate between the people that were riding, out there for the adventure, maybe partying a little bit from the dangerous sort of criminal activities. So also including the fast moving automated bikes, the ones that are not used power. So, when things like this happen, if you contact your community council plus your CI plus, your council person, often we can all work together to come up with different ideas. And in this way, we've got, basically Steve Woolbridge, who runs the motors part of the police department, to advocate for community members. Not to shut down the ride, not to stop the fun, just to help.
One different streets.
Get
So.
so that
We'll tell you 1465 stuff. Thank you.
Does anybody have any more questions? Because we need to keep on time. It's time for us to move on. We good with? Thank you.
okay, and yeah, she can put my email address and all that out in the, is there, contact me anytime. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Great, thanks. All right, well, up next, we have kind of a special guest. But first, I want to draw your attention to the back room where we have our fire department. So, in all transparency, it is budget season. And something that's really important to our community council, part of our priorities is supporting our first responders, our police and our fire department, and the social workers that are part of their response to this now. So at every community council meeting that we host that these guys can come to, meaning if they don't have something more important, somewhere else more important to be, like on a call, they come and they talk to us about whatever is important in our community. Often it's seasonal, right? So again, we want to let you know, attending community council is your direct connection to the fire department every single month. So again, we have Station 5 right in the middle of East Liberty Park. But interestingly enough, Liberty Park is covered by two stations, Station 5 and Station 8. Who do we have tonight here? Yeah, great. All right, well, thanks, guys. But we have a special guest from the fire department, and this is Bob Silverthorne. Bob has a special place in my heart because I often have to contact Bob in the middle of the night regarding dangerous things in our community that need attention right away. So I have never worked with somebody yet from the fire department who will answer critical calls in the middle of the night when they're not going to dispatch. So thank you very much for making sure the community is covered when we have fire problems happening. So Bob Silverthorne currently serves as the Community Relations Division Chief for the Salt Lake City Fire Department, and he has been there for 29 years. A little bit about the Community Relations Division. They're dedicated to advancing public safety, education, and creating pathways to careers in firefighting and emergency medical services. Through strategic use of multiple media platforms, they share timely, critical information about potential hazards and active emergency incidents to help keep our community informed and safe. They also support the department's recruitment efforts by attracting a driven, highly qualified pool of candidates, strengthening their ability to deliver exceptional fire, rescue, emergency medical services. Finally, they are committed to engaging with the community by telling the story of their department and the people who serve within it. So before I turn this over to Bob, I'm gonna let you know that, Liberty Park, goes through different seasons. And this past year, we were very dry, early on in the season. And then later on, during the summer months, the watering kicked in and it became less bad fire hazard. But Bob sent people out, every night for a few weeks to help us get, the fireworks and open flames and things that were happening in the park, sort of under control. So, these are the kind of things that his division does, and I'm gonna turn it over to him, and then we'll let everybody else ask some questions. Thanks for being here, Bob.
Thanks, Christina. I appreciate it. I also want to give a shout out to Station 5. I'm surprised we're still even here right now because they're extremely busy. Out of Station 5, as you know, it's 1023, I believe, east. 900 south. As an old guy, I can't believe I remember those numbers, but they were the busiest station in the city 2 months running. So December and January, they ran the most calls out of that station of all stations within Salt Lake. So these men out here are boots on the ground serving the public, and really fortunate to have the level of expertise and professionalism helping out our community. So thank you guys for being here, and thank you for the invite. It's really a passion of mine, being the Community Relations Division Chief, to have that connection with the community. And this is one of the venues we do that. So every community council that will allow us to have a place on their agenda, we will have our crews show up and deliver some messaging, some numbers, even field some questions. So I grew up in Southern California. I came out here about 29 years ago. This part of the city is near and dear to my heart. I used to live on Wilshire Place. This is 630 South, just next to the Pregnancy Resource Center over there. I served a few years out of Station 5 also. I met my wife down here at Charlie Square. So I love this part of the city, and I'm here for you as a resource as far as connecting with the community. So as Christina said, we do everything from recruitment and testing. We're in the middle of, we just closed our application cycle for our next 2 recruit schools. We closed today, well actually, I'm sorry, tomorrow. So we do everything from talking to all the candidates. Right now, I think we have almost 900 plus people that apply to be firefighters with Salt Lake City. Typically, we hire roughly 25 to 30 firefighters per year. That's just based on attrition and folks retiring and moving on to other things. So we're involved with that. We do public education. We're embedded with our schools. Our crews go out when requests come in from the community to, whether it be, a show and tell of our equipment, what we do in the fire service, or is this some sort of safety message. Our crews are constantly out there, as well as my division. So we do that. Also public information. So my shop is the comm shop. We do everything from fielding media calls 24/7. We're getting calls from the media because they're combing the scanners and they hear something, they want information on particular incidents. And then when we get working incidents, what we call them, when we have a significant incident happening in the city, then one of our PIOs or public information officers will get dispatched, and we become part of the command staff, and we get information as timely as we can out to the public. In addition to that, we do any sort of external and internal communication. This community newsletter is an example of that. My team builds this. This goes out every month to people that subscribe. So hop on our website, fire.slc.gov, and subscribe to our newsletter. Put a lot of work into this in terms of getting some messaging out, some important things to know. And people always want to know the activity that's going on within their communities in terms of call volume. As an example, just this is some stats that we got at the beginning of February. So just January alone, Engine 5 responded to 72 fire or fire-related calls. So that's not 72 fires that happen. It could be anything from food on the stove, no fire alarm, anything that's outside of medical care. And then as far as medical calls, Station 5 had 219 medical calls just in January. So that's quite the workload. Our firefighters work a 48-96 schedule. So they are on for 48 hours and then they're off on for 48 hours, off for 96 hours. So also Station 5 houses, our chat programs. So those are our social workers that are embedded with our squads. Our squads are a 2-person unit that goes out with a 3rd person being that social worker. And they take some of the lower acuity calls so we can take some of the load off our heavy apparatus. They're more nimble. We've got 1 firefighter, 1 paramedic, and a social worker embedded there. So they're helping the public get definitive care outside of just relying on 911 for healthcare. So finding the right pathways, getting the right resources, getting them that definitive care. So they're not in this revolving door of just using 911. We can get them the care that they need. So pretty proud of that program. We have 4 squads in service now, Cap. Yeah. And they're strategically located throughout the city. One quick message from the chief. So every February, American Heart Association call attention to Heart Month, right? So we focus on cardiovascular health and life-saving actions. Heart disease, cardiac arrest, they remain a major public health challenge in the United States, with more than 350,000 out of hospital cardiac arrests occurring yearly, and survival rates still low, but immediate action isn't taken. So the reason why we want to hit you with some of those numbers is to really emphasize the importance of calling 911 when someone goes down and having some sort of CPR initiated, whether it be just chest compression until we get there. And even our dispatchers are still in walking you through what CPR looks like. Also, I really want to emphasize wherever you're at, try to identify where those defibrillators are. They're super easy to use. They're typically in most businesses. If you don't have one in your business, get one because early defibrillation saves lives. You put the patches on, you hit a button, and it walks you through the whole process. It's super easy. And then a lot of times, because of the actions that we get from the community, the bystanders prior to us getting there, that directly results in positive outcomes, or what we call ROS, which is return of spontaneous circulation. So really want to encourage you to, call us, get some bystander CPR going, and then get that early defibrillation going, and then we can kind of continue to care out all the way to the hospital. Other than that, I don't have anything else to deliver in terms of messaging or numbers. I'm happy to field any questions if you have them.
Anyone?
And I'm sorry about riding my BMX bike in the bike mob. I didn't know that was their lawn.
Oh, but.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
For sure.
All right, well, we have one more thing. Save some of the best for last, right? Most of the people who come regularly to ELPCO meetings have met Erica Carlson post all of the campaigning that she did. I'm gonna let her tell you about her, but I wanted to say a couple of things about Erica that's really meaningful to me. When I became the chair of East Liberty Park, we really had a hard time coordinating with our council people. And I was new and I didn't really know what I was doing. But when we met Erica, right, we were so excited that all during her campaign and ever since she's been elected, she attends not only our community council meeting, which is kind of the bare minimum, but she also attends our really down and dirty in the weeds land use and transportation committee meeting. And she also hosts a D5 meeting, which brings all of the community councils in D5 together to talk about the larger issues with the district. So this is pretty unheard of level of commitment to listening to her community. So before she talks to you, I would just like to give Erica a round of applause for starting off with such a bang. And we really appreciate it.
I would feel like the round of applause really goes to all of you for hanging in there at 8:30 p.m. on what I've heard is called Friday Eve, i.e. Thursday. If we haven't had a chance to meet yet, my name is Erica Carlson, and I have the honor and the intense privilege and responsibility to be your council member for District 5. I want you to know that it's not something that I take lightly, and it's something that I'm thinking about almost every day, about how can we make life better for the residents who live here now and those who are in town. So Christina asked me to share a few of my priorities that I like to focus on over the course of my term. And given that we're at the later end of the evening, I wanted to do something maybe a little fun. So if you're willing to, go on a little journey with me. And I want to tell you a story. And this story is really what I am working towards, what I'm envisioning, what I'm holding in my mind and in my heart as I step into and more fully represent all of you in my role on city council. So I want you to imagine some years from now in the future, I don't know how many years, but let's say 10 years. Let's go 10 years into the future. When you look as young as you do today, you meet a friend at Liberty Park. And as you look around Liberty Park, you see and you admire all of the beautiful trees that are there. And you start to see some of the trees that are maturing that were planted 10 years ago today. As you're walking around Liberty Park, you see it's a safe place where people are gathering, where kids are playing at a new playground, and the park is activated. You're talking with your friend who just came to visit you about how proud you are of this park. You decide let's go get a bite to eat. And so you start to walk. And as you're walking, you're realizing, hey, this feels like a safe place to walk and cross the street. And as we cross the street, we get to our destination. We get to a place that is thriving local businesses all around. And you walk into that beautifully owned local business with your friend, and you sit down and they ask if you'd like some water. And you say, yes, I love some water. And in this future, we're no longer in a drought. But as that water comes to you, you know, and you can trust that that water that is coming to your table is safe for you to drink. And it's a resource that's managed with precious care and intentionality. As you're chatting with your friend about all the wonderful things happening in your neighborhood, you start to talk about a topic that's really important. And I would venture to say near and dear to my heart, you say, oh my goodness, we just had one of those earthquakes again. One of those little baby earthquakes. So I decided when this baby earthquake happened, you're telling your friend, you know what? I decided to refresh my emergency kit. I went into my bag and I made sure that I had enough food and water for my family. And I made sure that I talked to my neighbors and we had a plan if something were to happen. And your friend is like, wow, I can't believe you're thinking about this. And you said, well, 10 years ago, we as a neighborhood decided that we were going to care about emergency preparedness. And so we know that when the big one hits, we're going to be ready. And as you walk out and you finish up your meal in this thriving space with local businesses all around, people on the streets, bikes traveling at a safe speed, enough parking, but not too much, that it's overwhelming and it discourages other modes of transportation. You decide to get a coffee to go, you stroll with your friend by the whale, and as you decide to leave, there's a trash can for you to put your coffee in. I'm sharing this with you because I hope what you saw in that very silly story is a reflection of some of my priorities. Support for our local businesses, ensuring that the government, our local government, is delivering for you, ensuring that our parks and our green spaces are safe and well maintained, ensuring that you have a place to enjoy, but also you have a sense of safety in terms of what's coming out of your tap and what you're drinking. You are thinking about emergency preparedness, which is like my nerd topic. Don't get me on it. I'm very sorry to the fire department because I did your community emergency response training program and then lit a fire under my you-know-what.
It's awesome.
What I failed to mention, but it's one of my priorities, is as you're walking around to that thriving local business, you're noticing all of the housing that's around you. There's a lot of it that's for sale, but not for sale because people aren't living there, because they're clamoring to live there. And because we have more opportunities for home ownership in our neighborhoods that feel accessible and attainable. And so that's a big priority for me, is how can we bring more for sale units across the city, but especially to District 5. And if it's not for sale, how can we create more wealth building programs for residents? So those are some of my top priorities. I want to tell you that I know my job is to listen to you. My job is to be accountable to you, to show up. And I will tell you, I'm only a month and a half in, now 2 months into this. I know I'm going to make decisions that you may not like. And I know I'm going to make decisions that you probably would disagree with. And I think that's part of the job. But I want you to know I will always show up, I'll always listen, and I'll always tell you why I decided to go in a particular direction. And I hope that that dialogue continues between us no matter the future decisions that come down the road. So thank you all so much, and open it up to any questions you might have.
Does anybody have any questions for Erica?
So I have a comment.
Wait.
Well,
I would like to introduce Janet Wade, right here. Janet Wade is new to our board at Eastbury Park, and she has fills this really important position where she is a liaison with the 9th and 9 businesses. So before she goes on to give accolades to Erica tonight, we want to make sure that we are showing our appreciation for all the hard work Janet has done. She too hit the ground running out there in the streets around 9th and 9th. I was out there taking pictures of trash with her early Saturday morning, many Saturday mornings in a row. So Janet, thank you so much and welcome to our team.
okay. Thank you, Christina. Why I'm standing up is I just want to say a big thank you to Erica. She was like a week into her position. I've been collecting data for the past 2 months, talking to businesses, taking photographs of 141 pieces of trash on one Saturday morning, and submitted it. I waited till Erica was on the council, strategically. And we met with her. Not only did we meet with Erica, but we met with the whole committee, right? I thought we were just meeting with Erica, and we go in and there's a room economic development. So this is just a little gift to say thank you so much. You said to share it with the mayor. I'm not sure I want to after what she said though. And I hadn't heard that piece from the mayor about paying for it. So we'll see what I might do some planned ignoring. That's what we call it when we work with young children. Planfully ignore. So we'll see. But thank you so much, and you can share that as to some brothers with the mayor. They tell her thank you from me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you know, I know trash cans, who knew they could be a hard thing to solve? Turns out they are, but
I knew it. I knew it.
it is, I believe it is something that is a small way to build greater relationship and be responsive to the business community and build that relationship with the hopes of that relationship growing into something greater or something. So, but I think it's about taking that first step towards each other. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Erica, or should we load this pop stand?
Yes, that.
So I'm also a huge emergency preparedness nut. And recently my girlfriend's parents have been asking me about ham radios. They're afraid that the government is going to turn the internet on. That's all their story. Anyways, I love your idea of community preparedness. I mean, historically, whenever we look at giant disasters, anything happens, people who have strong community are the people who get through it. That being said, what is your advice for going to tell my neighbors and saying, hey, we all need to get ready for the earthquake? I'm telling you, man, it's happening. The big one's coming without looking like a nut. I'm pretty sure my whole family are really big nut.
That's a great question. Can you tell us your name?
That was really
such a great question.
So you can blame it on me. I have a monthly newsletter. If you're not signed up, please sign up. I'm trying to push out emergency preparedness info via that newsletter. I'm asking you to say, imagine there's an emergency, think about each room in your house, talk about 2 ways to get out of that room in case something happens. I don't think this happens overnight. I think it's a mental shift that we need to make. And the reality is as professional and as skilled and as capable as our firefighters and our police officers are, when the big one hits, they're going to be totally overwhelmed. And so it's going to be on us to take care of not only our families, but once we've taken care of our families and our homes, to think about other people in our vicinity. One thing that kind of got me onto this topic was someone said, imagine a major disaster hits, and the only people you can rely on are people within 15 minutes walking distance from where you live. How many people come to mind? Do you know them? Do you know their names? Do you know how to get in touch with them? And so I think using stories and helping people to understand that, we hope to never experience the big one, but it might happen. And if it does, we're going to be ready for it. Thanks for the question, Bob.
Bob, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that question? I think that was really great.
No, I really appreciate the messaging in terms of preparedness, because we will be tapped out, we will be overwhelmed. Just getting out, doing structure assessments, just doing, windshield assessments, seeing what the extent of damage is. We've got a plan for ground station operations where we've got strategically located where we muster our resources. But yeah, you're right. We can't do it alone. We've got a division within Salt Lake City Fire Department, emergency management. We've got a lot of resources there, including our CERT program. We've got a whole outreach branch as far as emergency management is concerned. So that's part of the plug for our website, is to hop on there. There's tons of resources in terms of giving you direction on how to build your kit, what it should look like. I definitely agree with making those connections with your neighbors, and even getting some things into practice, whether it be a full-on CERT team build. I think that's a huge resource. That's the community emergency response team. So that's a sort of a grassroots, community-based response. And it's a good opportunity to just kind of get together, get some reps in, see what that looks like, and then sort of help each other brainstorm, okay, what does your kid look like? What does my kid look like? And who are the vulnerable people within our community, right? And we're folks that we need to have extra eyes on, whether it be, our elderly community or people with special needs, things like that. Wrap your head around how can we help us collectively as a neighborhood not be so siloed out. Well, I'm just going to take care of my own little circle of my home. But I agree, let's take care of ourselves first, and then start going on and seeing what we can do. But yeah, serve our website, and then put a request for training and education. We'll be glad to come help out. But I would help as much as I could any of that preparedness information, because from my understanding, we live on a fault line, right? And did we have an earthquake? When was that? Yeah, there was a considerable amount of building damage. So, you kick that up a couple seismic, swings on the chart, and it's a whole different story in terms of damage to buildings, to injuries to people. So we take that stuff real seriously.
Yeah.
So I just have a question, since we've been talking about earthquake. I understand that the city has a program for dealing with reinforcement of masonry structures. I live in 1909 masonry house, but it seems as though that isn't very heavily funded. I was told there was something like a 7-year wait time on that. I'm at an age where 7 years is a pretty long time to think about reinforcing the house. So I did bring in a structural engineer to me, but it seems as though the resources, even if you're paying for it yourself or willing to pay for it yourself, are pretty limited out there for a place that has, I gather, 30 or 40,000 structures that are at very substantial risk in a major earthquake. Is the city thinking about doing anything to sort of improve the availability of that sort of thing, or highlight it, or maybe try to bring in get more structural engineers interested in doing this, and contractors interested in doing this? Right now, it just feels, for the kind of need that appears to be out there, it feels like there actually aren't that many businesses really involved.
I'm looking at Tammy, who's the Director of Community and Neighborhood Affairs.
Hi, everyone. The Division of Housing Stability is in my department, and we were the division that operated the Fix the Bricks program. And so that was the seismic grants for unreinforced masonry houses. Unfortunately, that program was funded primarily through FEMA, and the federal grant landscape isn't what it used to be. And so we were applying for, and it also required a congressional earmark. And so we didn't get put forward for funding. We were turned down for grant. So there's no more FEMA money. But the council last year did fund a little bit of money to the program through Community Development Block Grant, which is through HUD. But you have to be of a low or moderate income to qualify. So there is still a little bit of money out there for residents, but you have to income qualify to access the funding.
No, I mean, that wasn't really the issue. I mean, I got the structural engineer out, but he seemed to be very backward. I mean, I had about 9 months ago, and I've been waiting for a proposal from him. And there's a contractor, I guess, that he works with at the city had recommended when I called into the so I think the contractor is out there, but it just seems like they're not, there's not a ton of activities. It seems harder to get this agenda up. Because I'm ready to pay for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, I understand the city doesn't have the money for it. I've been having trouble getting things moving to the point that I can get a contractor engaged to do it.
I would maybe try engaging a few other professional references. You should be able to move forward with an engineer and a contracting company. We've been having success in the city with our program, so maybe you need to put.
Well, I can talk to you about it. So this was the engineer that you recommended, and he's very good at this.
Yeah.
He needs to hire some people.
You know, maybe when the temple is finished, there'll be some guys.
Yeah, there we go. That's
the big one.
And the airport and everything.
There we go. Well, I want to keep an eye on time. I know we are reaching the end here. I am happy to be here to answer any other questions that might come up, but I just want to thank you all for showing up tonight. Thank you for caring about your neighborhoods, and I'm clearly biased, but I think we live in the best district in the whole city. So thank you, and it's because of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. If we have any last questions, we can quickly take them. Otherwise, we're out 10 minutes early. Thanks everyone for coming, and we hope to see you next month. We meet here at the Aviary over above the gift shop in the Wax Wing conference. Please join us. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone online who attended our meeting tonight. We're going to go ahead and close ELPCO's February 26th, 2026 community meeting. Thank you for coming.